Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into the powerful leadership lessons from the book Extreme Ownership. Now, these aren't your typical business school theories. These principles were developed by former U.S. Navy SEALs Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, and they were forged on the battlefield.
Our story starts right here in our Ramadi, Iraq. This place was the ultimate pressure cooker. A true crucible of combat where leadership wasn't just some abstract idea. It was the single most critical factor for survival. In an environment this unforgiving, every single theory gets tested by fire. Ineffective ideas? They get tossed out immediately. The principles that actually worked, the ones that brought people home alive, they were hammered into a whole new way of understanding leadership. The stakes? Well, they couldn't have been higher. And it was this harsh reality that forged the single most important principle in the entire book. It's a concept that, honestly, it completely changes how you look at responsibility. Okay, imagine the absolute worst-case scenario you can on the battlefield. A mission goes sideways, shots are fired, and friendly forces are hit. It is complete chaos, it's confusing, and it's an absolute tragedy. So, what's our first instinct as humans? We look for someone or something to blame, right? Was it the guy who pulled the trigger? Was it bad intel? Just bad luck? The list of possible excuses, as you can imagine, is absolutely endless. But the core principle of SEAL leadership is something radical and absolute. It's called extreme ownership. And this means the leader is responsible for everything in their world, not just the things you directly control, but everything that affects your mission. There's no one else to blame. But here's the key. This isn't about punishment. It's about empowerment. Because only when you take total ownership can you actually fix the problems and lead your team to a win. Okay, so that's pretty intense. But how does this idea of absolute responsibility really apply when the stakes aren't life and death, but, deadlines and profits? Well, this is where it reframes every single problem. Instead of pointing fingers, you take control. So instead of saying the market is down, you say, I didn't prepare for the market. It is a fundamental shift from being a victim of your circumstances to being the owner of your outcome. So, taking ownership, that's the foundation. Now let's look at how other combat principles translate directly into some really powerful business strategies. Think about this simple, really elegant tactic. Cover and move. In a firefight, you have one team laying down fire. That's your cover. While another team advances. That's the move. It's an incredibly simple idea, but it's built on total mutual support. You either succeed together or you fail together. Period. And in the corporate world, well, this exact same idea is the key to unlocking what real teamwork looks like. This is the perfect cure for that silo mentality that just plagues so many companies. You know what I'm talking about. Sales blames marketing, operations blames engineering. Cover and move means every single department sees itself as part of one team, fighting for one shared mission to win. So let's say everyone is working together. Great. What else could possibly go wrong? Well, let's tackle another common business problem through a totally different law of combat: simplicity. The book gives this incredible example of a company with a bonus plan that was just so convoluted. Look at this. It had weighted values, variable curves, tiered metrics. No one on the front line actually understood how they were getting paid. They were just kind of happy to get a check at all. So what's the real problem here? It's that complexity is the enemy of execution. Whether you're in combat or in business, when the pressure is on, complicated plans completely fall apart. If your team doesn't truly get the mission, how can you possibly expect them to adapt and win? So what was the solution? Radical simplicity. The company scrapped that entire crazy plan and replaced it with this. Just two clear metrics that everyone could see, everyone could understand, and everyone could act on. And the result? A massive jump in productivity. Okay, so you've established ownership, teamwork, and simplicity. But what's the secret to making these principles actually stick? Well, it all comes down to one absolutely crucial idea. And here it is. This is one of the most powerful lines in the entire book. Your team isn't going to live up to the high standards you talk about in your meetings. No, they will sink to the lowest level of performance that you are willing to accept. So think about the case of the tortured genius CTO. You know this type, a brilliant technologist, always delivering results, but he refuses to take responsibility, blames everybody else for failures, and just creates a toxic environment for his entire team. And here is that classic leadership dilemma.
Do you tolerate the bad behavior just because this person is a high performer? Do you make an exception to your standard of extreme ownership because you think, oh, we can't possibly lose them? Well, according to extreme ownership, the answer is a hard no. The CEO realized that by tolerating that toxic behavior, he wasn't just managing one difficult person. He was actually setting the standard for the entire company. Making that hard call, it wasn't just necessary, it was the only way to protect the mission and the team. But, leadership isn't just about rigid rules and making these super hard decisions. It's also a constant balancing act, which brings us to our final and really crucial lesson. This is what the authors call the dichotomy of leadership, where a leader's greatest strength can actually become their greatest weakness. So in the book's example, you have a CEO whose deep loyalty to an old friend is admirable, right? But by letting that friend's division fail, he was putting the entire company at risk. He had to find the balance between loyalty to one person and his ultimate responsibility to the mission, and to every single other employee. At the end of the day, all of these principles really boil down to one simple but profound question. When things go wrong, and they will, is your first instinct to look out the window to find someone or something to blame? Or do you look in the mirror and ask yourself, what could I have done differently to make sure we succeeded? How you answer that question, well, that defines your leadership.